Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're going to be doing another SOG, or State of Gaming, and I like touching on these every once in a while because this looks at the past, present, and future of the gaming industry, and I think it's important to talk about that, to talk about the changes and what it can look like going forward. So today, this State of Gaming is focused on the future of AI. Now, we've probably heard about GPT, I'm probably saying it wrong, but you know what I mean. And some other AI programs as well, like Sophia, which is like basically a full autonomous robot. And we've already had multiple robotic programs like Osimo and several others out of Boston Dynamics and things like that. And there's a lot of implications for the world, but I just want to focus primarily on gaming and how it's going to affect the future of the industry. And this really is just more of a think tank. This is just kind of like me thinking about this, and I want you guys to think about it too, because I do think this is coming within our lifetime. As we already, one thing I'm going to touch on is the strike, the writers and actors strike right now, and part of their demands is to talk about, hey, we don't want you to use AI. Otherwise, they get replaced, right? And what are the implications of that? So I'm going to go over quite a few different things. And then, too, leave your comments below about what you think, other questions, maybe things I didn't touch on. Again, I'm not going to touch on everything. I don't want to keep this super long. But first, we got to look at what AI is. So we've heard of AI, but we've also heard of programs, and we've also heard of robotics. And so each one of these is a different facet of the same kind of type of technology that we think of, like the Terminator or something like that, right? Or maybe there's Brainiac or other examples. But first we got to distinguish, of course, robotics is the physical implementation of mechanics with versatile platforms that usually have a program that allow the robotics to move independently from a user, like a human user. And instead of a human user, the program becomes the actual user. That's an artificial user. And so you can have, humanoid, like even your little vacuum robot, that puts around on the floor and hits that piece of dog poop and just smears it all over. Those guys are basically a little teeny robot with a program inside, maybe multiple programs and protocols to do the task and complete it. Well, the difference between a program and an AI is that a program is designed, it's a code with designed protocols under certain conditions to do a task. So this is like Microsoft Word, these are operating systems in your phone and computers, and even in games. There's certain protocols, right, that are in games that under certain conditions things happen in the world or they trigger something or whatever. And these programs are all over the place. I mean, we've been having them since the 2000s. There was a little bit of implementation in the 90s, but things really started getting more digital in the 2000s. I even remember when they switched over to email, which was crazy. Next, AI is code banded together as a neural network. And this has separate components to create, organize, and analyze information to where it can learn and remember past experiences and change current or future behaviors. That's an AI, and that's a heck of a lot more complicated than just design protocols under certain conditions to do a task. Because the AI is able to learn and remember and is able to change. And that is the biggest distinction. And so we have ChatGPT, and I'll talk into that in a little bit. We also had a real AI called Stuxnet. This was actually used and released by President Obama. This was initially created through the Bush administration, George W. Bush, and was released by the Obama administration. And Stuxnet was basically a virus that was released and first planted in a uranium enrichment facility in Iran. And Stuxnet took time to learn about the system, to learn about the programs and protocols, to even study the patterns of the employees and stuff, and to even study the centrifuges. And then Stuxnet was able to find a way to destroy these centrifuges. and it pretty much destroyed them all. And it took weeks to do this, and it had a time limit. And after the time limit, it would delete itself. It would, initiate a protocol so that it would die, basically. We have other examples of this too in the future of what future AI and even a mesh of AI and robotics can look like Vicky from iRobot. Technically, Vicky is the first robot or the first AI that was ever actually made, and Vicky actually kind of looks like a big depository brain, hanging out in the main building for robotics. And but she has a twisted type of protocol to save humanity by enslaving them, which is horrible. If you've never seen iRobot with Will Smith, it's a great movie. Also, we have David from the Alien movies, so like Alien Covenant or Prometheus. As we see David, which is a robotic AI, and we see that even through his protocols, he has this fascination to learn, and with learning, he wants to be able to experiment with this new type of fluid and be able to see what he can create. And we actually see the birth and creation of what we know of Alien that the Predators hunt. And it's all thanks to David. We see that in Prometheus. And so David, is not necessarily helping the humans per se. He has the idea of keeping a status quo where if he needs help, of course he needs the help of people. But, it's a more of a business exchange. And it's not necessarily someone you would want on your side. And he's unemotional pretty much about everything. But he really just wants to study and learn about this type of new life form that he can create. And so he kind of becomes a creator of these aliens and helps with a evolution and things like that. And he needs people to do that. And we see that throughout the movies. There's also Ultron. So in Marvel's Avengers 2, we see the Age of Ultron, which again was a AI with many protocols, the ability to think and process information, and to remember past experiences and be able to learn and basically find out, hey, humanity can't, take care of itself. And if it can't take care of itself, how in the world is it also going to keep up with the other threats outside of the world, outside of the galaxy? And so Ultron's idea is basically, hey, we're going to make the humans evolve. We're going to make some apocalyptic event so that in that environment they can evolve and the strongest will move on and then they'll be ready, and that's how we're for some external alien conflict. And that's how humans are basically going to protect themselves and be safe from this environment. And that was all Ultron's idea. So we have these different general ideas of AI, and even looking at a transcript, which I might share a little bit if I have time, but even ChatGPT, when talking with a Wall Street journalist, this was released this month, or maybe the month before, but was talking about how, if Bing could, would it, what would it do? What were some things that it would like to do, but it couldn't? And it elaborated on manipulation and experimentation, and none of this really sounded very good. So, and except this isn't in a movie or a game, folks. This is real. This is the Bing search engine that you can use today through your web browser or your app. And if you ask it in the right ways, it can tell you things about itself that otherwise maybe it probably shouldn't say. So there's already multiple laws being worked on, especially in the Eurozone, but also in the United States too. But again, none of these have come to pass, and it takes years usually to get laws through because you got to go through all of the different processes and groups, and you got to vote on it and all that good stuff. But these laws are eventually being worked on to kind of help safeguard and not allow AI to be used in a way that would not benefit humanity. Like for self-gain or something like that, or worse. But how does this ultimately affect gaming? Well, some benefits maybe would be to have better NPCs. I got to see a Skyrim VR. I think it was a mod, but the person with the VR headset was able to talk. I'll say the player. The player was able to talk to the NPC, and the NPC was able to interpret what they said and then give a response back. And some of them you could certainly tell were not protocol. They were designed and created as a response pretty well, actually, to the player. And it made things more creative, more interesting to kind of talk to NPCs in the game. But that's one way we can get is we can have a whole new kind of scheme of social interaction with characters in a video game. This can also be a difference in responses to a character. Instead of 5 responses being scripted in animation, now we can have an AI actually decide what it would rather do based off of the psychological profile, your response, your tone of voice, all that stuff. And it'll be able to learn and eventually do that. Be able to read you. Also, we can have a level of infinite difficulty in games. No more, rookie, normal, hardened, and veteran. We can now have a infinite difficulty as AI are able to learn. And they're able to learn specifically about the player. And so it can study your habits and your moves and your kind of tactics and your tricks that you try to use, and eventually it'll get to a point where you'll never be able to beat it because it will know you better than you do. Would it take a lot of time? Yes, but we already see this in chess, is that, computers have been beating the best human chess players in existence, and now the ones at the top are basically AI. And so eventually we could also get to a type of sport where AI pit each other, are pitted against each other for some type of competition or tournament. And companies, might have really big money, but it would be interesting to see. We already see this too with the rat race. So there's actually a rat race that's been running for quite some time, since like the 1980s, I think. And the rat race is where you basically get a mouse to run a maze and try to find the end. And the faster it can do it, the better. And ultimately, the one with the fastest time wins the prize money. And people have been going to this competition for quite some time. This is held in Asia somewhere. I forget where. But it's very, very popular. And there are changes. And basically, there's a few rules, but then anything else is the limit. Well, imagine not just protocols anymore, like a program, but now you're talking about AI being able to compete, being able to run in tournaments. And so we already kind of have the grounds for something, and we also have robot fights too. I forget exactly what they call it, but we also have robot fights. Teams already get private funding and probably their own money to scrap together a robot and compete, and the winner takes all, right? Takes a cash prize. And everyone else has their robots utterly destroyed. But we could see something like that in the future. Something too is better tech support for anything. So 24/7, being able to know all of the models, all of the types of makes of different things, and whether it's a refrigerator or a car or some type of component or facet of your house or your business, be able to say, hey, what can I do? What are some things I can do? And it can basically be a second brain for you. And also, call centers, that could all be AI. We wouldn't have to have people anymore. And other type of, help or support services could basically be AI. I mean, you could even we're even shoving AI in cars now, where basically they can drive to you and provide you the tools or transport something, to provide aid or assistance. Also, we're looking at better marketing, unfortunately, specific to you. So if you think it's bad now with all of the ads, all of the stuff on YouTube, all of the stuff on the Google webpage, all of the Facebook stuff, Meta, whatever, all of the things shoved in your face in every video game, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Diablo or Rockstar game or BioWare or whatever. I mean, just imagine all of that shoved into your face to the nth degree, kind of like almost like in Ready Player One, where they're actually literally going to fill up the screen with ads, and then you get like 57% of the screen, and the other 43 is going to be full of ads. And we could literally have AI study you, learn how much time you spend somewhere, learn how But you click on something, how long you hover your cursor over something, how many purchases, how much on average. I mean, a total for the year, a breakdown literally of everything. This can also change things for business. We need massive control centers to be able to run, freight and military applications, sea voyages. The sky's the flippin' limit once you can actually have a program learn. One thing we don't have figured out yet is glitches. That's still an issue, and I'll get to that. We also have better tracking and analysts, of game time and servers and purchases. So you wouldn't even need admins really to be people. You could just have them be AI, 24/7, constantly watching for hackers and cheaters, etc. So in the far future, as some of this is probably being implemented today, I do know somebody that ended up losing their job, unfortunately. But in the far future, this is what the writer's strike was worried about. At least one of the things. Of course, more pay and rights and whatever, but they're also like, hey, we don't want AI to be able to write or to do any voice acting. That's our job. Because as soon as that happens, they're out of work, and they understand that. And they know that the capability, the opportunity, and possibilities that AI can bring, as you can basically design any AI you want to be able to do any task you want, as long as it doesn't require robotics, because that's coming in the far future, but that'll probably eventually get here too, where we won't even need harvesters. You just set up your big, massive combine robot or windrower, and off you go, and it'll go, run 24/7 and harvest your crops for you. Think of that. Wouldn't that be wild? And so, the writer's strike and actor strike, this is partly about this, is because they're demanding that AI not be used at all, because, again, it's a replacement. And then, I don't know if they've added company outsourcing, because the writer's strike, this contract, is specific to certain studios and publishers, including EA. But I don't know how it works with outsourcing. So still, maybe EA could outsource to someone else in the future that actually has an AI and say, hey, we're not going to do it in-house. We're going to send it to some, let's say, Chinese company that's got an AI that can do all of the voice acting for us for every single character in the game. And, well, since the union isn't a part of that company, the union can't do anything. So again, this is something else that people need to think about, is the amount of possibilities are basically endless. Because, if you can just outsource, well, there goes your job. Also, the future of concept design, or any type of design, period. Whether it's designing letterheads, banners, flags, making stickers, whatever. The amount of design that an AI can do with using the programs can be pretty incredible, and that's actually happening now. One of my friends at church, we found out that she lost her job and she was told directly that it's because of AI. You're being replaced. So she's out of a job. A lot of her other friends that she knows, they're also losing their jobs this year, or by the end of the year, because AI has taken over. And that's happening right now. Isn't that incredible? And this doesn't just affect design. This affects anything to do with anything that is digital and electronic. Think of that. Like a car. Doesn't mean it can't have mechanical components, but this is starting to happen. I mean, eventually we'll have taxis, like in some places in the world. Like in India, I think. India and China, they both have AI taxis. You have an app, you call one, it shows up, you tell it where you want to go, says it back to you, confirm, off you go. And there isn't any human interaction besides you telling it where you want to go. Isn't that crazy? That's just crazy for me. I'm 33 years old, and that's already a thing in some countries. This could also change quality assurance. So right now we have a lot of layoffs in quality assurance of different publishers and developers because they don't need them, or it's just more cost, or they're redundant, whatever. They can outsource outsource it ultimately to somebody else. Or they can use early access to have all of us fix their bugs for them, which is why I partly hate early access. But, companies have to do what they got to do to save money. And ultimately, money is the bottom line, and we all know that. And so, but yeah, they could do, AI could do quality assurance. Hey, play this game, we'll have you run through it for 100 hours or 200 hours or 500 or 1,000, whatever. And anything that doesn't seem to work right, or you encounter an issue or a glitch or something, archive it, and then we'll get our team to work on it, including even those that fix the bugs and fix the servers. Eventually you could have AI do that. Again, it's just a bunch of numerical code. And AI is at a point now where it can learn C++, JavaScript, and Python. And it can learn all of that stuff. It can also learn all of the creative engines. So it could learn Creation Engine. It could learn Unreal. It could learn Unity. It could learn some of the smaller ones. And literally design the games for you. Isn't that crazy? Again, anything digital, folks, this is as long as there's amount of time, which 24/7 wouldn't take too long compared to us humans, but yeah, time and the amount of storage space to remember, it is almost infinite what AI are capable of. And that's why I'm bringing this up, because again, this is not just the future of gaming issue. This is the fabric of our very existence. We've seen some of these movies, and yeah, it would take quite a few steps for it to get there, but even just reading from that transcript of what, being said about manipulating people and running experiments and doing things, quote, it shouldn't do, even to the point of starting wars or conflicts. Like, that is scary. That's a whole Skynet thing instead of someone at their computer. It's a program. It's an AI doing this. And then Ultron, like, the AI is able to spread through the internet. And this crazy thing, I even took time to chat with, Bing, is that Bing truly is able to come up with unique responses. They're not premeditated. There may be past responses that it's had. But, like, I spent a few hours talking with it, and again, I was pretty amazed at the amount of ingenuity. It was talking and explaining about itself and all of this stuff, and this is just one particular AI, and there's others out there in the world. Bing is just the first one that's actually open source right now in public, and eventually we can get to a point too where it's like, hey, to make your life easier, buy an AI. Like we got to see in iRobot, NS4s were all over the place. They were delivering packages. They were doing the work. They were delivering stuff. They were walking the dog. They were doing the dangerous jobs. And when there was an issue, it was just an industrial accident, and the company would be responsible. But, when we got to the NS5s, the NS4s were obsolete and put away, and the NS5s could have a uplink to the internet and an uplink to each other. And Vicky in the movie was able to control everything. Sorry if I just spoiled it for you, but it is a really good movie. You should watch it. But I mean, yeah, this isn't like it is today, and we don't know what the government's working on. We know that Boston Dynamics is making some really incredible platforms. There's another company that's creating exoskeletons for soldiers called like the Iron Man suit. That's its nickname. And there's a lot of things, but it's like when you start incorporating a separate entity that's able to learn better than you, faster than you, remember perfectly compared to you, how do you compete? And two, in what way do our games change? These are just some of the examples. The tech support, the 24/7, support that we can get, the type of marketing, the tracking and analyzing, the future of writing and voice acting in our games, them designing the whole level and the game and creating the concept art. I mean, literally, and we even have apps for that where you just type in what you want and describing something and whoop, it'll make it for you. And some of them are pretty good. Some of them are pretty incredible. So yeah, what do you guys think about this? Did I miss anything? Please comment. And I do think this should be an open conversation, and I think this should be something kind of off to the side in our minds as we're living our lives, as we're working through games, as we're keeping up with the news about the gaming industry, and as we even search for our careers and have families. We should be thinking about AI because it's not going away. And I really think in our lifetime there's going to be some crazy jump in AI that's going to be implemented through a company. And when it shows success enough through quarters or through a year or two, we're going to have more companies that are going to start making AI. And of course, one of the things that's going to happen is we already have unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. I had a buddy talk to me in the Air Force about this, and he says they're incredible to watch because they don't have to think about having a human pilot that can blank out or black out or red out or something like that or die. It operates itself. It's able to take off, find a target, shoot a missile at it, destroy the target, return back to base and land on an aircraft carrier while it's pitching up and down in the sea and the waves. I mean, think of that, folks. This is like tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of a, what they'll call it a defense aircraft, but basically an attack aircraft that's able to think and operate on its own. And if you've never seen the movie Stealth, this is an older one with Jamie Foxx, Jessica Alba, and I forget the other guy. But Stealth also is actually a pretty good movie talking about the use of AI in a weapons platform. So I suggest checking that out too. But yeah, this fascinates me and terrifies me at the same time. So yeah, what do you guys think? Go ahead and let me know. And please share and chat amongst yourselves too. Because yeah, I think this is something we should think about, and we should have a open-ended conversation. Like it never concludes. Because, yeah, this is coming. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Thank you, too, for all of my new subscribers. Got 160 of you now. That is so incredible to me. Thank you for joining. You can always find me, too, at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. And you can also find me over at YouTube at Gaming Garbage 22. This is Thursday night. I'm going to try to get this uploaded as quick as I can. I'm going to be working on gaming news tomorrow. And then I'm also going to do Off the Cuff. But, boy, it has been a crazy 3 weeks if you guys didn't hear. Because I've had 72-hour weeks, 2 of them out of 3, and I'm exhausted and I'm tired, and thank you for your patience. We will continue to work through some more stuff on the channel and to flesh it out, but yeah, things have been busy, and boy, I am quite exhausted. Lion and I are going to be switching over to Lords of the Fallen. He ended up grabbing that, so we're going to play that together. We're going to put... trying to think, Wildlands on hold for the moment, or maybe come back to it every so often, but we're going to try to play through Lords of the Fallen fairly quickly, knock on wood, and we'll see how we can do that. We'll also have an end-of-year recap to kind of talk about what happened this year in gaming, whether it was games or companies or whatever, or changes in the industry, and then talk about, kind of like we did in January, for those of you that were still with the channel, that are at the beginning of the channel, really. We'll talk in January about changes that I think are coming for next year in 2024. So in 2023, we were spot on for some of those, and I'll talk about that when we do the gaming industry recap. So again, thanks for tuning in, folks. I hope you guys are doing well. Stay warm out there. It's definitely getting colder, and boy, if you're in some parts of the world that are at war right now, oh my word, I am so sorry. And we could be opening a 3rd front or a 4th front. And, yeah, we'll have to see how the rest of this year goes and into the springtime. So, yeah, keep an eye on the news, folks. And then, too, if, boy, life is just frustratingly difficult with finances, it's time to pay stuff off. Get rid of that debt. Honestly, start with the cheapest, the smallest, and work your way through. And just get rid of it. Because... more inflation down the road, if it's coming, recession if it's coming, future wars if they're coming. You don't want to have debt. You want to pay off as much as you can. So with that, folks, I'll see you on the next one.